What's up, guys? I am back. I'm here. I don't know why I'm a little hoarse this morning, but yeah, we're gonna figure that out. Maybe I just need some tea, or maybe I just need to quit talking. First things first, we're going to review chapters 20 and 21 in learning module number 3 in Blackboard. There is going to be a video quiz that precedes the two chapters. So make sure that you take that quiz. Next week, I'll be in a virtual conference for National Strength and Conditioning Association. So I will do my best to record the remainder of the chapters in that learning module. And just so you know, there will be a quiz to follow. So just as an FYI, trying to disconnect everything just so you'll hear nothing during the lecture. I have my notes here just so I can stay on task and not bore you to death about chapter 20 and 21. Okay, we're just going to go right into chapter 20. Okay, government plays a role in how the environment is regulated in terms of the pollutants that are entering the air, what's entering the air, what's entering the water, what's going in the water, how water treatment plants work. Now, those are just kind of the things that the government has a role in. Now, since the 1970s, regulations have improved. And I say that because there are more laws in place. People have developed a bigger awareness of it, especially during the role of urbanization. Which urbanization is a process of areas being more urbanized because populations are increasing. And how that happens is it's achieved through like building coffee shops and shopping centers and more homes. So that's how urbanization comes about. Mind you, that is a quiz question, just a little FYI. So make sure you watch this whole video. I know you don't want to, but it's all right. You'll be all right. As urbanization increases, even though that urbanization is a real threat, since the 1970s, government agencies have been much more mindful in terms of how to regulate water, air, pollutants that come into the household, pollutants that might be in the air, the damaging effects of pollutants that enter as far as a pregnant woman, or anything that might hurt the development or delay the development of a child. So over time, it has gotten better. Okay, we got some environmental hazards here. All right, so I'm not going to go over all of them in detail, but ideally you do need to know what some of those environmental hazards are. Now, the federal government has an agency specifically for the regulation of different environmental factors that are going on, to include water, land, air, and that is the Environmental Protection Agency, better known as EPA. Big agency, they're everywhere. The Trump administration has rolled back a lot of laws in terms of EPA, in terms of not only just EPA, but various environmental agencies that are worldwide. So just always be mindful that EPA is your go-to for all things environmental. Okay, talking about environmental hazards, we have radiation. There are some people that are concerned about radiation. For example, I tell a lot of people this and they're shocked. The only time I've ever used a microwave in my life was when I was in college. 5 years, and that was it. Before that, I never used a microwave, and I still don't. I don't use a microwave because I just never grew up with it. It's not essential to me. But the reason why my mother and my grandmother didn't use a microwave, who were the ones that primarily raised me, is because they said it's a lot of radiation, which when you do the research, you'll pick up that, they're true. They're telling the truth. The particles change shape, or it changes position when you microwave food or when you nuke food. So my mom is still anti-radiation. When you go into the airport, you have to, well, nowadays they changed it, but before you would go through the x-ray machine. My mom is like, nope, not doing it. So, and you still have people that are concerned about different procedures because of the radiation content. Rightfully so, that is a hazardous, a form of a hazardous environment or environmental hazard. Of course, radiation is in sunlight, so you should always wear sunblock all the time. Then you have mercury. Okay, you find it in thermometers or school laboratories. It can damage the person neurologically. They do advise women who are pregnant or women who are nursing and younger kids to not eat a lot of fish because it does carry mercury content. And like I said, for the most part, you find it in thermometers, kind of like that silver, the old school thermometers, which you guys probably may not see now. It just might be just a red substance, but I believe it's still in there just a little bit because that kind of helps with temperature change. But when I was growing up, it was a long thermometer and it had full of silver mercury in it. So, but they are trying to regulate that now more than ever, as opposed to just forcing mercury into people's mouths as far as taking your temperature. Then you have lead. Lead is another harmful effect on young children. It can cause developmental delays. Sometimes it can be found in drinking water. Sometimes it can be found in paint. So nowadays, you're going to see a lot of paint that doesn't have that lead content in it. And then, nowadays, now more than ever, people are much more aware of lead content found in water. So, kids can be screened for lead level content in their blood. Again, it does cause a good number of developmental delays. Okay. Arsenic, they say it's the king of poison. I mean, it's just no more description to it. It is just straight poison. Okay. People who have private wells may be drinking water with 50 to 90 micrograms of arsenic per liter. That's why I don't do well water. So there's some people that'll say that, well water is great. No thanks. Okay. Talk about water in a different topic, but drinking bottled water is preference. Okay. It doesn't mean that it's healthier. It's just taste preference, but we'll get into that later. Asbestos. You've heard about this. Maybe, when people are remodeling homes, the thing about asbestos, once you see it and you know that it's there and you know what it looks like, basically it looks like dust. It looks like just a collection, kind of like that fiberglass you'll see in your attic. Kind of mimics that. But ideally, when asbestos is detected, don't touch it. Let a professional do it because it kind of becomes a little bit more active into the environment when it's touched. So you'll see at the bottom where it said World Trade Center cleanup and rescue workers were affected. I encourage you to Google woman covered in dust. During the World Trade Center. It was at the time when I was 17 when that happened, and there's videos that came out. I remember seeing that picture when I was a teenager or when I was 17, 18 years old, and it was extremely frightening. So I encourage you to look up that woman, dust-covered woman or woman covered in dust. She actually passed away from stomach cancer, which it is believed that due to her exposure, it may have caused cancer, but those test results are still being determined. Okay. Pesticides. There was a gentleman who actually has, I almost want to say he has leukemia or he has another form of an aggressive cancer as a result of him using pesticides, which I believe is in a product called Ridex. I think so. That's the name of the product, Ridex. Basically, it was proven that DDT is extremely dangerous. It's an extremely dangerous pesticide that can cause cancer. So, certain pesticides were stopped in the 70s, but as we gain more information about the harm and dangers of DDT, some places are just not using it altogether. Also, one thing to be mindful of is, One thing to be mindful of is how we clean our fruits and vegetables when we get it, okay? Because you're going to have some sort of bug repellent on it in terms of keeping bugs away. So you are going to have some sort of pesticide on it. So word of thumb, to get the bacteria and all the other stuff off of it, clean your vegetables. Doesn't have to be with bleach, but there's some vegetable spray, or you just run water and just rub it dry. Just don't try to douse it in bleach. That's not good. Okay. You have a brand new concern about endocrine disruptors. The main endocrine disruptor is BPA. You'll see it on the side of bottles. I actually have one right here. is make sure you're drinking your water. You'll see it, non-BPA. You'll find it on water bottles, and even baby bottles, or any type of bottled drinks that you have. You'll see it'll say BPA free. Basically, all it is just a chemical that can be found along the plastic substance of bottled water, and sometimes it can be absorbed into the bottle. So FDA is another regulator as far as foods are concerned, and what is harmful and what is not good, or what is okay in terms of BPA or anything into food. So too much absorption of that can be serious in terms of hormone regulation in humans, so as well as animals. But you'll see it as BPA, bisphenol A. Check your water bottle. Is it BPA free? All right. So, occupational exposures, and in another chapter we talked about occupational injuries, and here we are. There's risk to you going to work. Now, that doesn't mean not go to work, but you're always going to have some sort of occupational risk or exposure. So sometimes in certain environments, employees that face a higher risk of occupational exposure tend to be guinea pigs, and that is not okay. But there's various reasons to be concerned on the workplace, especially things that lead to occupational cancers. You have coal miners who are going to be exposed to lung cancer or black lung. You have those that might be X-ray technicians that might have an increased exposure to some sort of cancer that might come from excessive radiation. So there's always going to be some sort of occupational hazard somewhere. Okay. Another thing I encourage you to Google, you may or may not, it's totally up to you. Occupational hazards or hazards do exist among farms. There are going to be farms that may not be properly regulated as far as air pollution is concerned. You might have excessive ammonia in the air, excessive methane in the air. All of those are products from animal waste. And with it not being properly regulated, not only does it present harm to the farm workers, but it presents harm to the communities built around those farms. So, but there is a farm in my home state of North Carolina that has been known to take out a good number of people in the community with various illnesses. But oftentimes it can be easily regulated, but what's stopping it? Political power, politics, all that stuff. You can increase regulation and add money to it to, go towards the regulation of such farms. But then you'll have some that are just like, nope, not taking any money because it doesn't really pose any risk. So those are just things to be mindful of in terms of factory farms. Now, there's always going to be some sort of standard that is set in place as far as occupation is concerned. Not only just occupation, but just for the environment. One of them being a Clean Air Act, another one being Occupational Safety and Health Act. Those are just basically things that are put in place to help individuals not turn over into cancer or decrease the risk of cancers or certain illnesses and possible exposure to these individuals' families. So that's why these standards are so important. Okay. So safety is always important. So if you're on the job and your job requires that you wear a mask for certain things, wear your mask. Okay. If you're on your job, and let's say maybe you go into biology a little bit. If you're on your job and there might be a biological risk, but you know what you need to do to reduce that biological risk on yourself, then you're going to follow that rule to make sure that you're safe. So those are just things to just be mindful of. We talked about politics a little bit. Politics sometimes can throw a monkey wrench in the situation. The Trump administration has reduced a lot of environmental regulations. So it's just some things to be mindful of in terms of what you're being exposed to. So you can always ask yourself that question: what am I being exposed to? What do I need to be mindful of? Like I said, I know some of you may not do it now, but I encourage you to do it now. Get in the position to really research to see where some occupational risk might exist just in your neighborhood. It's very important to know. Okay. And just going to skip the discussion questions because y'all don't do the discussion questions. I know you're probably like, thank God. Okay, so going into chapter 21. All right, so air pollution. All right, one of those things, let me make sure I'm staying on my notes. One of those things you just need to be mindful of. What are you breathing in the air? Okay, how many of us have lived in a major metropolitan city? I have. I lived in two, actually. I lived in the New York City metropolitan region and I lived in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan region. And those areas can hold all kinds of pollution and smog, that type of thing. So, weather inversion. Now, you're wondering, what is weather inversion? Basically, what weather inversion is basically, without going too technical, it's a form of trapping air. And sometimes in the process of trapping air, trapped air can contain different particles in it, different chemicals in it, which can take a community out when weather inversion occurs. So the Clean Air Act of 1970 has different standards that has been set in place for major air pollutants, and has created different mandates as far as emission, inspection, and car repair or motor vehicle repair is concerned, because motor vehicle can be tractor trailer. So, the Clean Air Act has put a lot of those things in place. Okay. So again, not going to go into too much detail about the criteria air pollutants. Okay. But it's very important that you check your textbook. Okay. According to page 335, which is in your textbook through Tools and Brightwave. It will go over all of the air pollutants that are found in the air. Just know that there are 6 of them and know that they are all on your quiz. So, I don't know why I whispered that. Anyway, so there are other air pollutants. EPA has really set that standard. And, if there's any questions of any other air pollutants in the air, you can always look it up through EPA to see what the standards are, what they're regulating. And of course, there's always going to be controversy with all the standards. People don't agree, people disagree. So it's always good to just familiarize yourself with EPA and some of the standards within your state or the state that you're from. All right. So the benefit to living in a major city, which I've had 2 opportunities to do that, is public transportation. I will tell you guys, I love public transportation. Why? Because I have been driving since I was 13 years old. And now at 36, I hate driving. So anytime when I was living in DC, or really anytime I visit, I'm probably the only one out of my friends who will make the hard-earned effort not to drive. So if I'm going to a major city and it has public transportation, I will do that. I will take a Lyft. I will take an Uber. I don't like driving. So, but I know that in some cases I have to. And I have before. I have driven in Chicago, DC, New York, Miami, because I had to. But kind of the reason why I'm glad I had that habit of not liking driving is because, it's better for the environment. I'd rather not drive. So there are different strategies and different laws in place to regulate air pollution as far as your motor vehicle or your car is concerned. Some states do inspections. Now, I noticed in this state, there's no law, or unless I missed it, but there's no law towards car inspection as far as emission limits. But I will tell you this, strictest states ever that I've been exposed to as far as emissions and inspections has been my home state, North Carolina, the state I used to live in, Virginia, and the other state I used to live in, and that was District of Columbia, DC. Those are like crazy strict emission law states. Even Virginia is even aware of like the particles, being exposed to any particles or debris or damage. I had a windshield crack on my window this long, and because the windshield crack wasn't fixed at the time of inspection, they failed my inspection and they gave me a ticket. So yeah, those are just areas that you just need to be mindful of. But Kentucky is really lax in terms of motor vehicle emission laws. But these are things that are important. It's always important as far as your motor vehicle is concerned that the states go through an inspection process on your motor vehicle to ensure that, it's not producing any pollution. Okay, so Kentucky State just eliminated its smokestack because it is an environmental hazard when it's not being used. But there are still smokestacks being used. Just know that they do have to be regulated, and there's certain types of ways of cleaning and methods of doing so. So, like I said, we just got rid of ours because if it's not in use, it's hazardous. All right. So, like I said before, air pollution has gone down significantly, or pollution in general has gone down significantly since the 1970s because there's so many observances now. There's so much more awareness now. There's so much science backing all of this. And then we do have more, the political parties that are in support of protecting the environment are pushing for more laws to help regulate the environment. So, so it can work towards reducing cancer, reducing developmental delays in children, not harming baby and mother during pregnancy. So, and the same thing with the way we eat. These regulations are important because this really regulates how we eat in terms of what we eat. We're not eating fish that is full of mercury, okay? It comes from certain places. Or we're not drinking water that smells like bleach. So those things are important, okay? Indoor air quality. Okay, we talk about sick building syndrome, or I have talked about sick building syndrome before. It's just, we're always inside and we're not going out. And so it kind of makes us a little sick, a little bit. So that's just my public service announcement to encourage you guys to get out the house every now and again, get some vitamin D, get some sun. But then there's this risk of radon. Radon is almost a silent killer because it can seep in through the house, through cracked foundation, through the basement, maybe crawl spaces. It can come from dirt floors. So radon is a little creeper. So it just comes into the house, and it might be, next thing you know, it's probably just dangerous to be in your basement. So, and then there's additional indoor allergens. We all know about allergies. I have allergies. I'm allergic to mold. House mice, dust mice, that's really what that is. Animal dander. I found out recently that people can be allergic to a dog's saliva. I had no idea. So these are just important aspects to protecting the indoor environment. I have an air purifier because I do have allergies really badly. That's probably what's going on now because my air purifier turned off. So probably struggling with a little bit of allergies. Lost my train of thought. Anyway, acid rain is something that can damage ecosystems and forests and crops, and that's just a collection of dangerous fuels or dangerous gases that are in the air. And so remember back in the day that kids used to want to drink the rainwater. I'm not drinking the rainwater. So especially depending on where I'm at. Now in the country, yes, but in the middle of DC, no, not doing that. Okay, so that's pretty much it. What I encourage you guys to do, I encourage you guys to make sure that you are opening up your notes and watching your video. Like I said, I know you may not want to watch it, but you got to. So I will chat with you guys soon. Peace.